The creaking floorboards beneath my feet felt more ominous than usual. It wasn't just the old house settling. It was the sand, the ever-encroaching sand. The house on sinking sands, they used to call it. A morbid joke passed down through generations of my family who'd stubbornly refused to abandon this stubborn island. But the joke wasn't funny anymore. Climate change had turned the once idyllic barrier island into a ticking time bomb. Rising sea levels nibbled at the edges, eroding the white beaches into jagged cliffs, and the wind carried a constant, unnerving howl. The storm that night, however, was different. It wasn't just the usual howling fury. This storm had a voice, a guttural roar that seemed to speak of vengeance. My father, a man weathered by years battling the elements, sat by the window, his face grim. "Never seen one this bad," he muttered, more to himself than me. Power flickered, then died, plunging the house into an inky blackness. The only light came from the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the terrified faces of my family huddled around a kerosene lamp. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed through the house. The floorboards beneath my feet gave way, sending me sprawling into a dusty abyss. Panic clawed at my throat as I scrambled blindly in the dark, coughing on the rising sand. A hand reached down, pulling me back onto a precarious ledge. It was my brother, Tom. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. "The living room floor," he gasped, his voice hoarse, "collapsed. The whole basement is flooding." Flooding. In a storm, yes, but not with seawater. The fear that had been slowly building in my chest finally erupted. "It's the sand," I whispered. "The rising tide, it's filling the crawl space." The thought of the house, our fragile refuge being slowly swallowed by the very ground it stood on, turned my blood to ice. We clambered back up, the house groaning and protesting with every step. The lamp sputtered and died, plunging us back into darkness. In that suffocating blackness, all I could hear was the howling wind and the gurgling, sucking sound of the rising sand. A blood-curdling shriek tore through the darkness. My younger sister, Lily, "I can't find Sarah," she sobbed, her voice raw with terror. Sarah, our dog, a furry ball of boundless energy, had vanished in the chaos. Tom and I stumbled towards her screams, the house groaning like a ship about to break apart. We found her in the kitchen, huddled beneath the counter, whimpering. Sarah, sensing our fear, whined and licked our hands, but when I reached for her collar, my hand brushed against something cold and slimy. A long, sinuous shape slithered across the floor, disappearing into a widening crack in the wall. It wasn't just sand anymore, it was something else, something alive in the darkness. "Dad!" We screamed his name, fear replacing the panic. No answer. My father, a man who faced every storm head-on, seemed to have vanished in an instant. The oppressive quiet was worse than the storm's fury. Through the broken window, a sickly green light cast an otherworldly glow on the room. Lily whimpered, pointing at the window. There, standing on the crumbling cliff edge, silhouetted against the eerie light, was my father. But it wasn't him. His form was distorted, elongated, his eyes glowing an unnatural green. His voice, raspy and deep, boomed through the house. "The island remembers," he said, his voice distorted by the wind. "It remembers those who defied it. Now it claims its due." He raised a grotesque hand, the fingers gnarled and dripping with sand. Or was it something else? Something that writhed and pulsed with a sickening life of its own. The ground lurched violently beneath us, cracks appearing in the walls like angry scars. "We have to get out of here," Tom yelled, grabbing Lily's hand. But it was too late. The floorboards beneath us gave way in a final sickening groan. We plummeted into the abyss, swallowed whole by the hungry sand.
The last thing I saw was the green light intensifying, bathing the room in an unearthly glow. My own voice was lost in the roar as the sand engulfed us, its touch cold and suffocating. We weren't just sinking in the sand, we were being consumed. But instead of oblivion, a jolt of pain ripped through me. I gasped, coughing up sand and salt water. Disoriented and blinking back tears, I found myself on a rough, sloping surface. It wasn't the floor of the house, but The beach? Moonlight streamed through the broken clouds, illuminating the scene of utter devastation. The house, once a symbol of defiance against the elements, was now just a jagged silhouette against the churning sea. The storm had subsided, leaving behind an eerie stillness. I choked back a sob, searching for any sign of my family. There! Tom lay a few feet away, groaning. Relief flooded me as I crawled towards him and helped him sit up. He coughed, his eyes wide with terror. "Lily!" he rasped, searching the wreckage with his gaze. "Where's Lily?" Then a whimper caught my attention. A small, trembling form emerged from the debris. Lily, miraculously unharmed. Sarah, muddy but unharmed, nudged her hand with her wet nose. A wave of gratitude, so overwhelming it threatened to drown me, washed over me. We were alive. But at what cost? Tom stumbled to his feet, his gaze fixed on the churning sea. "Dad," he whispered, his voice hollow. But the answer was clear. The unnatural light, the grotesque figure. My father was gone, claimed by the vengeful island. We huddled together on the beach, the cold sand seeping into our clothes. The silence was broken only by the waves crashing against the shore, a constant reminder of the power that had taken everything from us. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky, casting an ethereal glow upon the wreckage, a horrifying realization dawned on me. The sand wasn't just hungry, it was angry. The rising tide wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a retaliation. We, the stubborn inhabitants who refused to leave, had angered a force older than time itself. And the sand, stained with the blood of defiance, held a chilling secret, a warning. Climate change wasn't just rising sea levels and extreme weather. It was a force that could awaken something far more terrifying, something that lurked beneath the surface, waiting for its revenge. We were the first to witness its fury, but the storm I knew was far from over. The house on sinking sands had fallen, but the island, forever marked by the greed and defiance of man, remained. And the sand still whispered a chilling message on the wind. The island remembers. We left that cursed place on a rescue boat. The image of the crumbling house, a constant reminder of what we'd lost. But the true horror wasn't just the loss of our home or our father. It was the chilling knowledge that we had woken a sleeping giant. The fight for our planet wasn't just about saving the environment. It was about appeasing a force far older and more powerful than we could have ever imagined. The story of the house on sinking sands wouldn't be forgotten. It would serve as a grim warning, a whispered tale passed down through generations. A chilling reminder that the Earth, when pushed to its limits, could unleash something far more terrifying than a simple storm. We had ignored the warnings and the island had claimed its due. The question remained, would the rest of the world learn from our mistake before it was too late?